Hi, everyone. Welcome back to part 2 of our series on the impossible choice of staying versus leaving a narcissistic partner when you have children. In our last video, we looked closely at the invisible trap of staying, the daily erosion of your sense of self, the physical toll of hypervigilance, and the toxic blueprint that children absorb when living under the same roof as a narcissistic or antagonistic parent. If you are joining me for the first time with this video, my name is Barbara Duchnowski. I am a licensed clinical social worker, a certified narcissistic abuse treatment clinician, EMDR therapist, and an advanced clinical hypnotherapist. And I am also a survivor myself. My goal on this channel is to combine deep, specialized trauma clinical frameworks with the lived reality of the survival to give you real, unvarnished strategies for recovery. If you haven't watched part 1 yet, I highly recommend pausing the video and going back to watch that first one, because today we are pulling back the curtain on the second door. We are dismantling the myth of the clean break. The mainstream narrative tells you that once you pack your bags, sign the divorce papers, and walk out the door, the matrix dissolves and your children are finally safe. But anyone who has actually co-parented or tried to navigate a custody arrangement with a narcissistic, antagonistic individual knows the agonizing truth. Leaving a narcissist does not end the abuse. It simply changes the nature of it. Today, we are going to look at the unvarnished reality of what happens after you leave. From the crushing weight of a disengaged parent to the trauma of losing your ability to protect your kids on their visitation time, to the deep heartbreak of the replacement family, we are going to look at the actual chessboard so you can learn how to strategically survive it. When people talk about divorcing a narcissist, the stereotype we always see online is the high conflict, explosive court battle where the narcissist is fighting tooth and nail for 50-50 custody out of pure spite, trying to brainwash the kids against you. And yes, that absolutely happens, and it is an unfortunate, agonizing reality for many. But there is another dynamic that is incredibly common and deeply devastating, and it's rarely spoken about. It's the disengaged, apathetic narcissist. Many narcissists do not actually want the daily, unglamorous grind of being a parent. They don't want to pack lunches, handle tantrums, enforce bedtimes, or help with tedious homework. So when you leave, they don't fight for custody out of love. They treat the children and the parenting schedule like a fluid negotiation based entirely on their own convenience, whims, and comfort. If you leave this type of narcissist, your new reality is not a clean, predictable schedule that gives you a break. It is a nightmare of chronic unreliability. They will be late for pickups. They will drop the kids off hours early without warning because their personal plan shifted. They will cancel their scheduled weekend at the absolute last minute because, well, a better option or a new relationship or a hobby came up. And you are the one left picking up the pieces of your children's shattered expectations, trying to explain why mom or dad isn't coming, while rearranging your own life to handle the logistical chaos. They become what we call the fair weather parent. They want the status of parenthood, but none of the labor. They will show up for those big public moments, the graduation, the championship game, the major birthday party celebration. They are there for the events where they can make a splash, take a photo, post it on social media, and collect praise from the world for being an involved, amazing parent. But the moment the cameras are turned off, well, they vanish. And where are they during an emergency? If a child ends up in the emergency room, gets sick at school, or experiences some sort of a mental health crisis, the disengaged, antagonistic parent becomes, well, poof, a ghost. They are suddenly unreachable, or they are too busy with work, or they actively minimize the crisis and blame you for overreacting. The entire crushing weight of daily crisis management falls squarely on your shoulders, even while they demand to be kept in the loop just to maintain that superficial sense of control. Now, what does this do to the children? Well, it creates a profound, quiet, a core wound of rejection. Children are incredibly intuitive. They figure out very quickly that they are an inconvenience, a burden to their parent. Watching a biological parent constantly prioritize their own comfort over a scheduled visit teaches a child a horrific lesson. I am an afterthought. I am only valuable when I am convenient. They live in a state of anxious uncertainty, never knowing if the person who is supposed to love them will actually show up. But it gets heavier. And this is the part of the video that I want every protective parent who feels guilty for staying to listen to a very, very important message. When you live under the same roof as the narcissist, you are there. You are the shield. Now, when the narcissist starts demeaning your children, calling them names, gaslighting them, or punishing them unfairly, you could step into the room. You can deflect the criticism. You can de-escalate the tension. You could pull your child into the other room and whisper to them, "You didn't do anything wrong. Mom or dad is just having a hard time. It is not about you." You can buffer the blow in a real-time moment there. Now, the day you leave, you lose that ability to be the shield. Granted, not everyone has even the choice to make this kind of decision where it's made for them. And again, neither is an easy decision. You are now legally obligated by the family court system, which is often completely blind to the nuances of narcissistic abuse, to hand your children over. You have to watch your kids pack their bags, walk out your front door, and get into a car, knowing with absolute certainty that they are entering an environment where they will be emotionally invalidated, perhaps insulted or ignored, and there is absolutely nothing you could do about it for the next 48 to 72 hours. And then what happens when they come back? Well, your job doesn't end there. When your kids return to the house, a grueling secondary job begins. Every single time the narcissist drops them off, you aren't just welcoming your children home, you have now become their trauma therapist. You inherit children who are profoundly dysregulated, anxious, maybe aggressive, or completely shut down, perhaps detached, because they have spent days operating in survival mode, walking on those eggshells. You have to spend the next 24 to 48 hours grounding them. You have to absorb their shifted moods, their behavioral outbursts, and their somatic complaints, those stomach aches or those headaches that they might be feeling. You have to patiently, exhaustively rebuild their sense of emotional safety from scratch, week after week after week. It is an incredibly lonely, depleting cycle of emotional cleanup. And then there is the final agonizing layer that many parents face. What happens when the narcissist remarries? Because the narcissist cannot tolerate being alone and constantly require new sources of supply, they often move on very quickly or remarry incredibly quickly. And they enter a new relationship and frequently start what clinicians call a replacement family with a new partner and perhaps new children. For your kids, the psychological impact shifts from active control to absolute erasure. They go from being part of a household to being treated as maybe inconvenient leftovers from a previous life. They go to the narcissist's home for their scheduled time and watch this parent provide the new spouse and the new children with the attention, the resources, those family vacations, and the public affection that they were always denied. This creates a deep identity wound. I am easily replaced. My parents' love wasn't real after all, because look how easily they give it to someone else. Worse yet, you are now legally forced to send your children into a home where a new adult, a step-parent, who has no biological or emotional attachment to them, holds authority over them. It is well documented in family dynamics that children face a statistically higher risk of emotional, verbal, and sadly sometimes physical abuse from a step-parent than from a biological parent. Of course, this is not always the case. There are many well-meaning step-parents who can be there. But in a narcissistic dynamic, this risk increases exponentially. Why? Because a narcissist will always prioritize the validation and approval of their new partner over the emotional or physical safety of their biological children. If the new step-parent resents your children, treats them like second-class citizens, isolates them from the new family unit, or punishes them harshly, the narcissistic parent will not protect them. In fact, to maintain harmony in the new marriage and prove loyalty to the new spouse, the narcissistic parent will often join in on the demeaning behavior, turning against their own children to appease the new partner. As the protective parent back at home, you are trapped in a secondary nightmare. You are left managing the complex, heartbreaking grief of a child who comes home crying, asking, "Why does dad or mom love his or her new kids more than me?" Or why is my stepmom or stepdad so mean to me when you aren't there? All while navigating a legal system that warns you that if you speak out too loudly or try to protect them, you will be labeled as a uncooperative or a high conflict alienator. If you are listening to this two-part series and feeling a sense of profound heaviness, I want to bring you back to the center. The purpose of laying these brutal realities out is not to make you feel hopeless or to terrify you. It is to give you your sanity back. If you have felt paralyzed, if you have felt completely unstable in terms of coming to terms with what the best decision is, it is because your brain correctly recognizes that both choices are fields full of landmines. You are not crazy. You are dealing with an impossible situation. Leaving a narcissist doesn't end the abuse. It just changes the geography. You trade the daily prison of living with them for the agonizing weekend by weekend anxiety of watching your kids face them alone. So how do you survive this? Well, it starts with radical acceptance. Stop making choices based on the hope that the narcissistic parent will wake up tomorrow and realize the damage they are causing. They won't. They will lay their head on that pillow tonight and sleep soundly. Now, if you choose to stay, your strategy must be to build an internal firewall. Protect your peace. Find outside support and be the single, stable, validating anchor for your children within the home, naming the truth safely wherever you can. Now, if you choose to leave, you must throw away the traditional romanticized concept of co-parenting. Co-parenting requires mutual respect and open communication, none of which a narcissist possesses. Instead, you must adopt parallel parenting. You completely disengage from their lifestyle, their unreliability, and their circus. You focus 100% of your energy on making your home an absolute sanctuary of truth, consistency, validation, and emotional safety. You cannot control what happens under the narcissistic parent's roof, but you can ensure that when your children are with you, they are wrapped in radical reality and unconditional love. Ultimately, this is a journey of choosing your hard. Staying is incredibly hard. Leaving is incredibly hard. The question shifts from, how do I avoid the pain, to which hard am I equipped to manage and heal from and guide my children through? Please give yourself some grace today. You are doing the best you can in an unnatural environment. Now, if this series validated a reality you haven't seen talked about elsewhere, please leave a comment below. Share your experience, whether you are managing the unreliability of a disengaged ex or dealing with the aftermath of the custody handoff. Your words might be the exact lifeline someone else needs to read today to know they aren't alone. Please don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more deep, realistic dives into surviving and recovering from narcissistic abuse. Thank you for being here. Stay strong, protect your peace, and I will see you next time.